If the answer to that question is no, then you have a cash flow problem. It takes discipline and courage for you to be able to go out there and make that decision for yourself.
If you're feeling trapped in life, then this episode is for you. I brought on a very special guest today, and it's such an honor to have you with us. This individual flew all the way from South Carolina to San Diego for one day to shoot this episode for all of you. This is somebody that I've admired for a long time, since I met him when I was a young man living back in South Carolina. I think I was around 18 years old when I met you. He's a father. He's an amazing entrepreneur. He's a serial entrepreneur, owns multiple companies. I believe he's up to 19 now, which is pretty incredible. But he's also the founder of botjock.com and what they've done. And we're going to talk about that and the freedom that they're giving people, the way that they're creating tools to help people not feel trapped in life. Can you guys help me welcome George Ama to the show?
Thanks, bud.
He's also known as CK.
Yeah.
For all the followers out there.
Yeah. You got the whole Instagram and Facebook and TikTok world. Then you got me and you. Yeah. So I'm just happy to be here, bud. Thank you so much for the invite.
Well, here's what I know. I know that, man, from the moment I picked you up from the airport last night, I wish I had a microphone in the car. That alone was multiple podcast episodes just in the conversation and the goal that was shared.
We've had some very good conversations, especially off record, but those are special because you and I, we've always been really just honest about how we feel about things. And most importantly, if there's something that we can do to enhance each other's lives, we've always been there to do that.
Yeah, and it's so important to proximity is power and surrounding yourself with the right people. And, I was telling George last night that when you run hard and fast in the lane that God's called you to, you're very focused on the calling that you have on your life, but you can look to your right and your left and you can see other individuals doing that in their lane. And George, for me, you're one of those individuals. You're somebody that through the years, over the last decade, I've known you over a decade now, I believe.
Yeah.
And even though we lived apart, I lived in South Carolina for several of those years, then I moved to Michigan and San Diego, we've stayed in touch.
Always.
We've remained friends. We've been championing one another from afar. We've been watching one another. So it's been amazing to see what you've done. And I just want to take a moment to honor you before we really dive deep in this episode. You're about what you say. And often you don't even need to say it. Like, you just go do it. Like you told me last night, you'll disappear and you'll be working on a project and building a company and designing things. And you'll come to the surface and you've done all of these things. That's rare. So many people, they talk about it, but they don't do it. You do it. And you talk a little bit about it. We're trying to give you a microphone to be a little louder.
Yeah, Cody, I got to tell you something too. I mean, I'm very, very proud of you. Like, I'm very proud of what you've done in your space. I mean, I've watched you grow. I've seen you mature. And it's really humbling to see that process happen right before my eyes.
Wow. That
being said, though, it's true. Oftentimes, I think so many people talk and they talk. Nobody ever executes.
Yeah.
And they wonder why, when January 1st rolls around and they're setting those New Year's resolutions, holy moly, this New Year's resolution looks exactly like last year's and the year before that and the year before that. And they wonder why they're not progressing.
Wow.
So, hopefully some of the things that we'll talk about today will give people not only hope, but more importantly, light a fire that will help them to actually act and do.
Oh, I know it will. I'm expectant for it. So let's talk about it, because those people feel trapped in life. What does being trapped in life mean to you?
Well, it comes in multiple forms. You think about this too, okay? I'm very big about the 4x6. Basically this right here. Everything starts with a thought. Everything starts with the desire to do something, thinking it through, and then, of course, acting upon that thought. Sow a thought, reap an act. Sow an act, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap an eternal destiny. It's something that I've always... I tend to matriculate that thought process every single day, because I know for a fact that when I hit the ground every morning, what I envision for that day to become, when I box it, when I put everything, all the priorities that I have set up for that day, I do not have tomorrow guaranteed at all.
Yeah.
I literally only have right now. And I'm very present about that. I'm very deliberate about that presence. And oftentimes too, that trap that most people tend to put themselves into, I hate to say it, but it's something that happened like just years ago.
Right.
Something in their past.
It's holding them captive still today.
Completely. Ball and chain, I mean, they're completely cuffed to that idea, or possibly to just that idea or what they think of themselves, that they feel like they're not worthy of the blessing that the Lord has for them. They don't feel worthy of the talent that he's gifted them. They don't feel worthy of going out there and literally lighting that bushel on fire and setting it upon a mountain saying, you know what, I have this to offer. It's what the Lord gave me. And I feel like, for all intents and purposes, majority of the things that I've done in my life from a business standpoint was done precisely to enhance somebody's life, to make it easier, to make it better, to untrap them from something that may or may not have been intentional, but at the same time, nobody ever introduced them a different way of thinking. Nobody ever opened their eyes to something that was completely different to what they had possibly been taught, maybe shown by their families or friends.
Yeah.
So your space and your mind becomes very, very small. So what I've tried to do is I've tried to create this trajectory where we break that particular, that prison, and then we open it up to the world. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we've done, even with Botjock, we'll start with there because that's what we were talking about a little bit. When it comes to financial freedom and stuff, I think a lot of people tend to think very small.
Yeah.
And, you hear it all the time. Heavenly Father is a very, very big God. He doesn't limit anything. Look at what we have. I mean, there's multiple.
He's not a God of lack.
Not at all. I mean, and when you start to have that mindset of scarcity, and you start to believe that, you know what, I'm not worthy of all that blessings. I mean, you know Matthew 6:33, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you.
Yeah.
Do you believe that? Did he were the prophets talking about that and saying that because you're just like blowing smoke up your butt? No, they know that for a fact because that's what it is, and sometimes just like faith, it's a small little seed at first, but you got to freaking water it, man.
And I want to take a moment because I know we're going to go deep into Botjock and financial freedom. And before we do, one of the things you said that's just been ringing through my mind is thought to destiny. Thought to destiny. And I was thinking about how you took us through that, how it starts with the thought and it becomes
an act.
Your destiny through those acts, through those habits, through all of that. And that's so powerful. So in a world that's so noisy, that's so busy, that's so distracting, that's so many things are trying to kind of conform the thought life that we have. How have you been able to protect your own thought life to create the destiny that you want to have?
I get asked that question a lot. They're like, dude, I don't understand how you formulate some of these really complicated models in my mind and how you are able to go ahead and take that and then basically parse it out piece by piece, creating it and then putting it all together to create this, whatever this is, Right. But the key to that code, has always been for me, I'm a hyper journaler. I take between 25 to 30 minutes an evening to journal.
Yeah.
And I don't type it, I write it.
Okay.
And I have volumes. My daughters will testify this. I have volumes and volumes and volumes of actual journals that I hope to one day print into a book for my posterity to read. And it's very honest, very blatant. If I messed up that day and I know that it was a mistake and I messed up, that is documented throughout the day.
Wow.
And I leave it on that piece of paper because I can't change it. It's happened, okay? When I go into the next day, anything that I've put into my journal that has basically, I feel needs to be improved because I write that to myself that, I could have done this a lot better. I could have handled that situation, but I could have been more kind to that person. Probably shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
I know that I've now thought about it. I'm mentally correcting it, which gives me the ability to wake up the next morning because the Lord, if he grants me another breath the next day, when that light shines and my eyes open, I've been granted, that's my first gift of the day, is me waking up and being able to go out there and prove myself again to him, which is the most important thing. I know for a fact that I've got the plan in my brain already of what I could do better.
Wow. Because you thought about it and you documented it, which allowed you to reflect on it. And then given the gift of tomorrow, you're able to learn from it moving forward.
Yeah, keep in mind, I think a lot of people, when they talk about breaking free or creating change in their life, they want this huge, massive leap from like A to Z, where my mindset is very, very different, where I challenge myself, I challenge my staff, I challenge my children to get 1% better every day, whatever that 1% takes, whatever that is for you. But be conscious of that 1%. And when you lay your head down at the end of the day, be tired. Be very tired because you were chasing that 1%.
Wow.
And know
leaving
for
it all out on the table.
Just leave it, because if I close my eyes tonight And Cody, if I don't wake up tomorrow, I'm good.
Because you knew you gave it everything you had.
When I go to stand before my maker, I was like, Father, I did everything that I could in my life to basically magnify every talent that was given to me. Yeah. I did not bury them.
Your best is enough, but your best is required.
Precisely. And I multiplied it.
Come on. So, okay, so let's talk now that we've laid a groundwork. We've laid a framework of a mindset mentality of getting 1% better, being of where we're at, knowing our thought life determines our destiny. Let's also go into practical, right? I want to definitely create space because, guys, what George is doing in the industry right now is disruptive. And it's not every day I get to have someone on the show that's built and created and doing something as unique as you guys are doing. And I want to talk about it. I want to hear about it. I want to educate my audience. Because in my opinion, there's times that we meet people, like I meet, and I know George, and I see what he's doing, and I've learned more recently, and I'm like, why don't more people know about this?
I know.
You know what I mean? It's like, what are we doing here? Like, it's like the best kept secret. And I know that your heart is similar to mine, that we're the guys that want to blow the doors open, that we want the everyday, average, common, I don't even like that language, but every single person to have access to not only the wisdom, but the tools to not feel trapped and to feel free in their life, to feel like they're in control of their destiny. So tell us, what is BotJock? What are you guys working on? What are these projects? Why is it so disruptive, and how can it impact others' lives?
That's a great question. So BotJock, first off, I got to spell it too for the people. So BOTJOK.com. It's kind of a play on words, really.
Yeah.
But when I had conceived this thought in my mind, one of the things that I found was extremely stressful for lots of mothers and fathers was just making ends meet. Okay. And I've employed a lot of people and I hear their struggles, of what's going on.
Yeah.
I thought to myself, I'm like, there's gotta be a better way. Well, you know that I'm a Forex trader, right, and a futures trader.
Yeah.
I've always been able to print money. Like, it's been one of my talents that I've basically had. I learned it from the inside out. I was able to go out there and perfect my craft. And I wanted everyone to understand the feeling of knowing that no matter what happens or what comes across my table or whatever is placed before me from a financial standpoint, that I could cover that, because I knew how to print money. Okay, I had the talent to do that. I thought to myself, why couldn't I teach others to do that? And honestly, the first thing that we did first with the CK Trading Institute was manual trading. We taught people how to read a chart, taught people how to do technical analysis. We taught people how to use basically indicators to give them confluence in order to make a good decision as to whether or not that trade should be made or bypassed.
Right.
And one of the I guess the falsehoods of trading is that everybody's going to get rich. Well, guess what? For every person that tries to get into this industry, for every 10 of them, 8 of them quit after the first 60 days. You want to know why? Because their emotions get the best of them. They make really bad decisions and they get wrecked. When I say wrecked, not W-R-E-C-K-E-D, R-E-K-T. That's the financial wrecked, where you're liquidated and all your hard-earned money is for naught. So I thought to myself, if there was a way for us as a team to create a more safe environment for our particular constituents, our subscribers to come in, people that are learning in the Institute how to trade, but take away that emotion by using basically AI and technology, which could take the calculations that we physically would have to teach somebody to learn how to do that, and it would do it automatically for them, where all they would have to do is fund an account, hook themselves up to our particular technology. Once the strategy was in place, the actual ATA, the automated trading assistant from BotJock, would take over and make those trades. Literally, the financial system right now is being turned on its head. And we talked a little about this last night.
Yeah.
We live in a world of fiat. Fiat, guys, in case you don't know what fiat is basically physical money. It's paper money, it's coins. We're going into a digital age. And you can see that we talked a little about the crypto market and everything too. The world right now is moving in a digital direction.
100%.
Paperless, okay? Very, very little barrier to entry. If you can somehow, some way figure out how to populate a wallet on the blockchain, and you could basically get tokens in those wallets, I can send Cody in a nanosecond $2, $4, $5 million if I wanted to at the press of a button, instead of having to go through all of the intermediaries.
And banks can't do that.
No, it's so
slow. You're going to a bank and try to pull out a lot of money.
Oh my gosh, bud. It's so archaic. The minute that you send a wire off to a bank, like a cloud of dust just basically lets itself loose because it's so terrible. It's so terribly painful and slow to watch that transfer happen. Well, now that we're able to create these ATAs for people, that type of money is coming in digital format. And at the same time too, you can use that particular ATA to pay yourself on a weekly basis from all the work and effort that the technology is doing for you as a supplemental income to your 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
Now just imagine having a 9-to-5 job where you're making $50,000 to $60,000. The average American here does that pretty comfortably. And then having the ATA produce an extra $5,000 to $10,000 a month.
Wow.
Okay. And do that consistently. So what did you just do? You just doubled your actual cash flow.
Yeah. And I remember reading an article, true article in a magazine I read. Mm-hmm. This was years ago. And they did a study how even $500 increase of every household would completely change the lifestyle of the household. $500.
Amazing, right?
Well, and you know what? Today with inflation and stuff, maybe it's $1,000. But you know what? Still, now you're saying multiple thousands even can be created. Obviously, there's time and consistency, I'm sure, to get to that
Absolutely.
point. But that's amazing. And you're also equipping the ordinary average person who even works a job, who's being told right now that a job is the most terrible thing in the world, that they can create something else that creates cash flow for their lifestyle.
Just imagine this though too, okay? You've got right now dependency across the entire world on work.
Right.
Okay? So we're entering right now into an era, and it hasn't quite hit yet, but the financial numbers are not in favor of a positive reaction. We right now have what I would consider a delayed reaction to a recessionary state that we're about to enter into.
Yeah.
If you were to walk in, okay, to your job, and your boss was sitting at your desk and told you right now, today, I'm sorry, but you are no longer employed here because we have to balance our books. And because the executive team decided that this department doesn't produce enough revenue, we have to let you go. Could you survive with what you have in your bank account right now for a year? Do you have 12 months of revenue, of supply, that you could basically sit there comfortably without a job and be able to go out there and feed your family, put a roof over their head, clothes on their back, and food on the table? If the answer to that question is no, then you have a cash flow problem.
100%.
The cash flow problem that we see happen day in, day out, it's not just here in the United States, guys, everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
We have customers everywhere. That is a human challenge across the board. I wanted to solve that problem with this technology. So just imagine having this particular technology doing that for you on a daily basis, monthly basis, yearly basis, creating a surplus for you. And here's the other beautiful part about that model. In the bot jock community, I talk a lot about this. I'm like, you can make all this money in the world, but if it's sitting there doing nothing for you, if it's not multiplying, then what are you really doing?
You're actually losing money.
Yeah, you're hurting yourself, right?
Yeah.
So what I always encourage our students to do is take that money that you're earning with the ATA and go buy income producing assets.
Yes.
Not liabilities, assets. Take that extra money and go ahead and put a down payment on a duplex.
Yeah.
Okay. If you need to live on one side while you rent the other side, in order for you to go ahead and have a little bit of cash flow, actually have somebody pay your rent or your mortgage for you, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay. If you have the ability to go out there and buy a franchise, you may not be really good at coming up with ideas. That's no excuse, because there's a lot of smart guys in this world that come with really great ideas. They've proven concept on those ideas, and those are called franchises.
Yeah, and they already have a brand identity. People know them, systems in place, products in place. You just buy, plug and play.
And barrier to entry is very low.
Yeah.
Some of these things, it may cost you $15,000. The ATA can do that. It can make that. Just imagine having the ATA produce $15,000 every single quarter, and that allows you to purchase another business, which creates cash flow, which basically takes the noose, the financial noose off your neck, that if anything were to happen to your 9-to-5 job, guess what? It's okay.
Yeah. And that's wealth building. And as you buy income producing assets like you talked about, but I know people have questions, right? So they're like, all right, I love this idea of creating this cash flow, investing into things that create more cash flow, creating freedom, taking the noose off. Tell us more about BotJock, because people are wondering that are listening to this that have never heard it before. Like, how does this actually work? What is it?
Okay. And it's a 3-step process. Okay. If you know nothing about trading, this is for you.
Okay.
This is the reason why we created it. Okay. We wanted someone that doesn't want to learn how to trade.
Yeah.
But they want to participate in the market while we're basically oscillating. Okay. And you can do that with our product. So as long as you know how to watch a video, okay, listen and follow the instructions, you can set up an account, fund it, hook it up to our technology, set it up, press the button to go, and it just rolls.
That's simple.
It's that easy.
Wow.
That simple.
And what you guys are doing is it's the ATA, which you coined and you guys own that. What is that again?
Automating trading assistant.
So it's an automating trading assistant. So this removes emotion, from my understanding from it, because that's the biggest mistake people make in trading. You said that.
Yes.
And because we're emotional, oh, it's going down, I got to sell, right? Instead of holding until it goes back up and selling. So it's removing the human element. You're leveraging AI, artificial intelligence, with algorithms that you know work, and then plugging that AI in to help make those decisions so a human being isn't the one necessarily clicking the button.
Well, think about it. All of those decisions that are being put into any type of AI structure was made by a human at one point or another.
Right.
So all we're doing is taking really smart people's great decisions and creating a database out of it.
I like that. You're taking really smart people's great decisions. And I don't know if we can talk about this, but you're really doing what the big hedge funds are doing, right?
Basically.
Yeah, and like that's the thing, as I see what you're doing as the very wealthy of wealthy, the way that they invested money and multiplied wealth in the markets, you're giving to the average everyday person.
Precisely. I wanted to bring it down to the blue collar level because that's where it's needed most.
Yeah.
Think about that too, because, okay, so strong families create strong societies, right?
Yeah.
Strong societies create strong states. Strong states create strong countries. One of the things that creates a lot of weakness and is debilitating is lack of funds.
Yeah.
Because money, I hate to say this too, but it's the truth. And we did talk a little about this too.
Yeah.
Money is power. Okay. Yeah. When put into the right hands, the Lord can use it as an instrument to bless the lives of many. And I think the reason why I became so wealthy was because the Lord knew I didn't care about the money.
Yeah.
I care less about it. It was a byproduct of my actions to try to help somebody because I worried about the client and what I could do to enhance their life. The money just came as a derivative of that. It was just something that came in basically as a blessing, But I know for a fact that because where much is given, much is required in that situation. I've never let that be my God. I mean, I'm able to work the money and put it into really good situations to help a lot of people, but that's, I think, what the Lord kind of put me in that position to do, because there's things that need to be done and people just don't have the money to do it. But I can go and make a donation to that. I can donate to the church if they need to make another building. I can donate to a mission fund that sends out 25 or 30 kids to whatever country that needs help that wouldn't be able to do that by themselves.
Yeah.
Basically negating them from that awesome experience that they could have. Never, ever, ever let money be that barrier. That's the whole point.
And how many people is that for right now? Even people listening to this, that feeling
billions.
The pressure of I can't do X because I don't have the money.
You just said the word that is not allowed in my home, and it's not allowed in my thought process and in my vocabulary. It's the word can't.
Yeah.
Okay. Most people get so trapped in what could go wrong in a situation instead of focusing what could go freaking right.
You know, growing up, I'm similar to you on that. And I know my household, like that's just not a thing already, but with children, wife, all that won't be a thing in our home.
Sure.
I think also, I just want to address this. There's a conformity going on of the mind and of the mindset. Human beings are being wired and taught in a certain way, to think a certain way, to have a certain belief system about themselves, about money, and about what they're capable of doing. We could go the whole conspiracy and dive deep, and probably a lot of truth to it too. They want people there because they run and they're in the employees of the businesses.
For sure.
But my mom, man, and I love you, Mom. If you watch this, I love you. But I have to say, and she knows this, we've talked about this, so it's safe to talk about this. Always came up, I can't do that. I don't have the money. And I was the dreamer. I was the young kid growing up, very poor, dreaming big, talking about all the grand things I'm going to do with my life. And I would hear from my mom, Cody, stop, you need to be realistic. That word still to this day is the greatest curse word.
It rubs me wrong. You just move like that, dude.
Yeah,
I cringe.
So
it's like oh.
My girlfriend, we've had to talk about it because she said it, and I'm like, don't ever say that word around me. And I had to explain why. I'm like, as a kid, when I dreamed big, because really People that say, let's be realistic, they're buying into a conformity and a mindset and a belief system that they can't figure out how to solve the problem to do the thing they really want to do. They're justifying and making an excuse of, by saying, let's be realistic, I can't take my family to Disney because, let's be realistic, it costs $10,000. You've now bought into a belief system. You believe that you're never going to take your family to Disney. It's always going to be too expensive for you versus, I would really love to take my family to Disney. It's going to cost $10,000. How can I figure out how to create that wealth to take them and give them that experience?
It's such a neat thought process too when you break it down and think about it, right? What is the trap? Okay. Well, the trap is dependency. Okay. So when you become independent of that particular, people are calling it the matrix, whatever that is, the pre-programming of media, of them basically wanting you to feel like you can't do it without their help. The word that you never hear ever when you're talking even to financial planners and things like this, and I think it's something that needs to be brought out into the open, is being self-reliant. What does that mean? And what does the Lord mean when he asks you to be self-reliant? So sure, ask and ye shall receive and it shall be given unto you, right? But you have to be put into a position or a place where you're able to receive that, okay? And the thing that's very interesting to me is those who are self-reliant put themselves in a position to basically put into opportunities that oftentimes are not meant for the small-minded. They're not meant for the mentally trapped or the people that are going to be like, I can't do that. Do you think the Lord will put trust in you?
Yeah, why would he ever steward you with a great call if you don't even think you can do it?
Exactly. And why would anybody trust you to do anything if they keep hearing you say, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it? People follow people who are like, you know what? We can do this.
Yeah.
I can do this. And I can help you do that.
There's a quote by Rothschilds. I can't remember, the Rothschilds, Jewish banking family, all that, very wealth. That was, those who assume power will soon be given it. Those who assume wealth will soon be given it. These are things, once you begin to assume that and almost own that identity, I think there's a multifacet to it. I think there's an internal belief system where the subconscious mind begins to believe that and begins to manifest that in outward reality. I think there's a God that loves us so much that created us in his image that we can go to, that we can get supernatural Holy Spirit wisdom from and how to build that thing. And then I think there's an external of, if I tell you, George, I'm a motivational speaker. If I say that enough time, George is going to go, Cody's a motivational speaker.
Precisely. It's programmed. And the funny thing is too, that whole manifestation, the assumption that you're calling it, I call it manifestation.
Yeah.
That manifestation, being able to go out there and see yourself, basically feel yourself, smell yourself in that situation is absolutely 100% key in order to create it.
But so many people struggle because they're caught in that realistic.
Sure.
So many people struggle to see the future they desire truly and to even believe and internalize that can become the reality one day. The moment the mind begins to want it there, they've almost been programmed to like cut it out. Like I could never, my feelings will get hurt. I'm just getting my hopes up. I see this in people. How do we break that?
Well, that's a great question. I think ultimately you have to remember one thing, and I tend to really focus on this a lot when I feel super heavy. Like when the burden feels very heavy on my shoulders. And I've talked to my executives about that too. I will tell them, I'm honest with them, like, guys, it feels heavy on me right now. But one thing that's always helped me to just pick myself up and to give myself motivation is this one piece of knowledge that I was instilled with as a child from my parents, my mother, my father, was always remember that you are a child of God, okay? And as his son, he wants you to have the best.
Wow.
He knows that you were designed for the best.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel at your best, always remember that he is encouraging you and there for you to help you get there. So what do? I drop to my freaking knees and I ask for help.
Wow.
I feel like, I'll tell him straight up, Father, it feels very heavy right now. I don't know how to do this. I'm at a mental roadblock. Please enlighten me. And if you can't enlighten me, please enlighten my team. And it's so funny because most of those answers don't come directly to me.
No.
I have a right-hand man, Nick Deliski, who's my chief operations officer for one of my companies. And it's so funny. He'll call me and he's like, dude, I had this thought come into my mind. And I don't know, it sounds really crazy, bud, but I got to share it with you. And then all of a sudden he'll just say it. And I'm like, Nick, I love you. I go, I don't know, you don't know this, but I've been praying for an answer to that problem. And you just presented me the most perfect solution to that problem. Let's create it.
Wow. That's so powerful. And there's a few elements to that. One, like just viewing God, our creator who made us in his likeness and image, as a father. My life changed. Grew up without my dad. A lot of people know that.
Your story is really cool, actually. I love your story.
Thank you. And there was a huge mental block with God because I couldn't even possibly understand how to even see a loving father for so long. And when that finally changed, young 20s, and I actually was mentored and I learned, and there's a book called Experiencing the Father's Embrace by Jack Frost. And I've met his wife, Trisha Frost. She came in and talked to us. It was really cool. I began to see God as a God that is a dad that loves me. And like you said, that wants nothing more than the best for me. And guys, I want you to think about this. If you're a parent, or maybe you're not a parent, but you have parents, truly at the genuine heart of any parent, and George, you have daughters.
2 daughters.
And what do you want more than anything for your daughters?
The absolute best.
Absolute best. And no matter what mistakes they make, what they go out and do, what lessons they learn, do you love them any less?
Absolutely. It's unconditional.
Right. Unconditional love. And so I started diving into this because I started understanding from the very foundation of creation that we were created out of love, that we had a God and he loved us so much and he made us in his image and likeness. And I believe he wanted to be loved back. I believe the very creation of man is God wanted to be loved and he wanted to love. And in that beautifulness, I had a change in my life when I said, wow, you really love me, God. Why else would you have created me? And no matter what's going on in my life, you really want the best for me. And I've bought into this idea that that's not true. And where along the way did I pick that up and how do I drop it, you know?
You know, to your point, to further that point, you know, it's interesting how when you know who you are and you know where you came from, why you're here, where you're going, everything becomes super clear. Yeah. At least to me it did. As a young kid, when I finally figured that, I was like, you know what? But again, giving people the ability to be put in a situation where they can enhance their lives and hopefully be an instrument in the hands of the Lord because of their position, whether that's financial, spiritual, mental, whatever that is. I can share with you that a lot of the stresses that we do tend to deal with in our lives, the root of the cause is financial. Yeah. And it causes a lot of mental distraction, a lot of spiritual distraction, because you don't feel like you can do it. Yeah. You feel inferior. You feel weak. And I'm trying to take that feeling away from families. I want them to be empowered. Yeah. I want them to feel like, you know what, I can be that person to help put that park in for our city, you know, because I've got the cash flow to make that happen. I want to be that person who can help pay for that funeral of that family who may not have the finances to make that happen. I want to be that person where a single mom whose car breaks down, she cannot get to work, to be able to go ahead and buy her a used car and be able to do that. And guys, you do that stuff in silence. You're not asking for media to be there. I don't have camera crews following me doing all this crap. It's just things that you feel, and you feel a prompting to help.
Yeah. And but if you're not in position when you get the prompting to do anything with it, man, I love that.
But many are called and few are chosen. And why are few chosen? Because they're not prepared, bud. Yeah. They're not prepared. The Lord prepares us to be his instruments. I've always, you know, there's a leader in our church who he presented a talk. And in this talk, the one thing that I left with, and I was younger when I heard this talk, but he encouraged us to lift where we stand. If that's all you can do, lift where you stand. I'm not the richest person in the world. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I've been blessed with good finances, but I know that wherever I'm needed in that particular regard, I can help. Yeah. And I will do what I can to make it happen. And people know that. And I think at the same time too, I just want to give people the ability to be that person for their community or their family or their environment or their country, whatever it may be. I just want to give them that opportunity. So.
Yeah, and when someone is there, and man, we really need help with this, right? And I remember there's a book called The Monk and the Merchant, and And I read it, and it's an amazing story. And, there's a concept in the kingdom of kings and priests. Sure. And there's those that are called to go build kingdoms, really wealth creators. They're the check writers. And then there's calls the calling is priesthood, right? And, men and women for both, and called to really build the church. That might be a full-time pastor, someone full-time in ministry, or a missionary, or whatever. And like, God has called you to that. You feel called to that. You're fully operating in that. The missionary, the pastor, all of them cannot build the house of God if there's not a king or a queen over here writing checks. Then there is once in a while, and it's happening more common today, there's an overlap. And you have people that are called to be kings and priests. And I would say that about you. I feel that about myself. I'd say you're called to take dominion, to occupy territory, to multiply wealth, to write checks, to build the kingdom of God and to do good in the world. But you're also bringing God into the spheres that you operate in. And that's rare to see.
I don't know if it's rare. There's a lot of people that, because they're just so humble and they don't talk about stuff, they're not on social media and they do all this stuff that we do. They're doing such great work behind the scenes, behind the curtain, in complete humility and in silence, which I think is, to me, most beautiful and stuff. But, at the same time, I know for a fact that if we're able to lift where we stand, if you want to be, I had a mentor that tell me this, and I thought it was actually really rude when he said it to me. But then the more that I matriculated and thought about it, I was like, he's absolutely right. He said to me, he goes, son, do you want to be a liability? And I was like, no. He goes, let me share something with you. He goes, it's a liability. And I was like, that's mean. That's very mean. But I thought about that. Think about this for a second, okay? If you are the guy, and please don't take this wrong. Anybody that's watching this stuff, don't take this wrong. But if you're the guy that's constantly eating out of that guy's hand, okay, and the minute that it stops, say that hand closes, where are you? Are you in the giver's? Or are you on the receiver side of that coin? And where does the liability fall on, the giver or the receiver? Think about that for a second.
It's good.
Chew that one up for a while. I meditated on that for probably 4 months straight during my meditations. And I thought to myself, and I manifested that in my own soul, that I personally did not want to be a liability ever. I want to be an asset.
Yeah. So there are people listening to this right now, and maybe it's you listening to this. They want to be an asset.
Sure.
They feel like a liability. What advice do you got for us?
Well, keep in mind, guys, okay, most of the time when people start to think about liabilities and assets, it always goes financial, right? It doesn't start there, okay? You can be a complete asset by just a kind word, act of service, something that costs absolutely nothing. Let's make that super clear, okay?
Lift where you can.
Precisely. And it doesn't need to cost anything. It doesn't have to involve any type of money, period.
Yeah.
But to answer your question again, for someone that's feeling that they're kind of in that situation where they are a liability, the first thing's to figure out why you feel that way, okay? Why? Become clear. Become extremely honest with your clarity, because things cannot be fixed, adjusted, improved unless someone is literally pointing to the problem and saying, okay, this needs to be fixed. And it needs to be fixed yesterday. But until you're able to be that brutally honest with yourself, I look at myself every freaking day when I shave. Okay? And that person looking at me has been looking at me for the past 48 years. And I know that person. But I also know too when I'm a liability.
Yeah.
I know when I am. And I'm honest about that. I'm like, I am literally just taking so much right now. I'm not giving enough.
That's good.
And you have to flip that switch where you give without wanting anything in return. There's no bill. There's no invoice. I'm doing it because I know it's the right thing to do. And more importantly, ultimately, it's not what the Lord wants me to do.
Yeah.
And then once you're able to do that,
giving with a cheerful heart, the word of God tells us.
Precisely. Always with a smile on your face and trying your best to makes whoever you're serving to make their life a little bit easier and hopefully a much better day than it was before you were able to provide that act of love or service to them.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. But that being said, I said to say this, that oftentimes, I hate to say it, it does come down to finances sometimes, where you're able to, you can get people out of a hole and you can help people get into a better position
Yeah.
Because you have the finances to do that. But it has to start somewhere. And that's the reason why we created BotChalk. There has to be a foundational basis to build all these really cool steps along the way.
Yeah.
You've got to start somewhere. And I think foundationally speaking, the technology will get you what you need in order to move to the next level. And then after that level, the next level. And after that level, the next level. It's a continued progression. You're never there.
Let me ask you this. I got a cool question.
Go for it, bud.
Let's say we take away everything you have right now.
Sure.
All the assets, all the money, everything.
Sure.
Right? You got like one pair of clothes and $1,000.
Dude, I'd strip myself naked. Start there.
All right, let's go. You got naked?
I'm buck freaking naked now.
We'll give you $1,000 though.
Buck naked.
What are you doing? Naked, buck naked, $1,000. What are you doing to build wealth?
That's a question that was asked a while back too. It's pretty funny. And you know, okay.
And take us through the whole process. Like, take us through multiple steps.
Exactly. Okay. So I'm gonna share something with you. Okay. So does anybody know? And obviously I'm talking to you, but the audience and everything. Does anybody know the one sector where the most wealth has ever been built? Anybody?
Crickets.
What would you say? Just think for a second. Who are the richest people in the world and what do they do? Or what do they own?
Banking, finances.
Think again. I'll give you another guess.
Real estate.
Real estate. Okay. McDonald's isn't a burger joint, my friends. It's a real estate mogul.
Oh, their model is amazing.
It's all about real estate.
Yeah.
Okay. The franchisees don't own their land.
This goes, you know, it's crazy. All the way back to kingdoms. Even the wealthiest people own the land.
The land, bud. It's all about real estate. It's been that way for thousands of years. In the Bible, you read about that stuff. Who was King Solomon? Who were all these guys? I mean, who's King David? They owned all the freaking land, okay? If I had $1,000, okay, what I would do, and this is something that costs no money, you don't need a license for it or anything like that, I would take 250 of those dollars, and I would create myself an ad, okay? A funnel per se, all right? And I would go out there to Facebook, and I would put up there, and I'd say, and I did this actually during COVID, okay? COVID got you down, behind on your payments, I'll buy your home. You're probably thinking, CK, how the freak are you supposed to buy somebody's house if you got $1,000 freaking dollars, okay? But that's not what I'm doing it for, okay? I'm doing it to generate leads. So I put that ad out there. Well, I had 87 people respond to me. They were like, I am very much about to lose my house and everything too. So all I did is I vetted that particular, it's $250 I spent. I vetted that list, found out the properties that were in the best situation to be assumed, okay? Created a contract where I was able to go ahead and purchase their home on this contract. And I was able to go ahead and take control of the property, okay? No money's being exchanged here, guys. Nothing, not one thing. And I was able to go ahead and take that list and I went into an investor group on Facebook and I said, I have 87 properties right now that are on discount right now that have over $200,000 or $150,000 in equity that are right for purchase at the current moment. Threw that list out there. It didn't cost me a dime. It was one post. Well, guess what? 140 investors come back to me and they're like, I'm interested. Where's it at? I sent them the list and everything too. All those properties were basically purchased on an assumption contract that I played the middleman on.
That you never put any money out of pocket for.
No, and the thing was the equity in the side of the house. So get this. So they owed, let's say, $175,000 to Anderson Bank.
Right.
The home appraised for $450,000.
So there's massive equity.
I told them that the house was for sale for what?
The top line, what it was appraised for.
Well, all I did was this to make it a deal because investors need to have margin.
Well, so you got it. You gave them a good deal.
I used it. So the house only owed $175,000. I said, well, guess what? They're selling for $200,000.
So you just tacked on $25,000 for you.
What did I make in that transaction? You just said it.
$25,000.
$25,000, and I did
because they bought it for $200,000, $175,000 was owed. You
take $25,000 and times that by 87.
I don't know.
Do the math.
It's a lot.
It's over $1 million.
Yeah.
That was done. I did that during COVID.
So somebody could hypothetically.
And I still had $750 in surplus to use for other stuff to do it again.
Right. To do other avenues.
I could have done it. I could have done it 3 more times with that amount of money.
Dang. That is insane. You know, there's a few elements to this I just want to pause on. For one, the creativity of thinking outside the box and finding solutions to problems that are already out there and how to get in at low barrier of entry. I really like that because I don't think a lot of people think that way.
No.
They think I have to have a lot of money to make a lot of money. You right there broke down, no, you don't. You just got to get creative with the solution that you're providing.
Keep in mind, I did need $1,000. There was $1,000 that was given to me. I probably got done with nothing either too. I mean, if I was to really do it, I would have scrounged up whatever.
But in
cost.
America, borrowing $1,000, anybody can do. Anybody could borrow $1,000.
I mean, you can take a cash advance on a credit card and start a business.
100%. Oh, I know people that buy real estate properties on interest-free credit cards.
Yeah. And they do it all the time. I mean,
all day.
There's so many opportunities in real estate. That's where I've made a lot of my wealth too.
Yeah.
Because I took the money that I earned in trading and I took it back and put it back in the market. And so I just do this cycle.
I want to follow this hypothetical story though. So George has $1,000. George puts an ad out. George gets 87 leads of homes that can be assumed of people that are struggling with the payments, finds investors, buys it, makes $1 million. Now what are you doing?
So I take that $1 million, I take 250,000 of that $1 million, I parse it out, and I look to see, okay, what's out there? Okay, I personally like to buy raw land because I like to develop it. That's one of my favorite things to do. But if I wasn't I didn't have that, that understanding or the acumen to go ahead and make that happen, that's where I'd be looking, going back to what we talked about before, an idea that somebody came up with that has basically traction. They've got proof of concept. I would take $250,000 of that money and see if I can find maybe 2 or 3 of those ideas and pop my money into those things there and get them up and running. So now I have 1, 2, 3 cash flow entities that are feeding me back the money that I invested. Once the actual money is invested back in, remember my principal's back up to $1 million. Then I go ahead and take whatever is capitalization from those businesses, and I'll go ahead and either use that to grow the business, or if I built it enough to a point where it's now basically, it looks really good on paper, sell it.
Yeah.
I have no attachment to the actual entity. It's just made me money.
Yeah.
But then I have my principal back. I've made a little bit of cash, and I'm at 1.2, 1.3 million, and I go and I do it again.
Wow.
And it's literally that easy. It's cycling the money, putting it to work. So it's not sitting in a freaking bank account earning 0.04% in a savings account. You're literally working the money. My money never sits.
And I know you've gotten creative. You've invested in multiple things, man. I've heard you make
19
money.
companies. Those are guys just out of pure 100%. Honesty, I don't own all 19 of those companies 100%. I'm
minority owner.
I own a portion of those companies, and they generate lots of revenue for me.
So can you share a little bit of that? Because man, there's so many people sitting out there, and some of my viewers and listeners, they got money, they have no clue what to do with it. Some of them are trying to build that, getting it off the ground with the hopes of one day being able to do this, and not even hope, the ability to. We're providing them with the tactical.
Sure. It's basically, so if you are familiar with the VC model, what's a VC stand for? It's venture capitalist, right? So VCs sit in an office similar to this, right? And they have guys literally lined out the freaking door with a deck, they call it. That's basically their pitch. They're going to come in. They've got 7 minutes to basically pitch their deck to them. And if they like it, they're going to write you a check. If they don't like it, you're on the street. Next. That's all they do. They sit there. VCs sit there. It's a freaking most amazing job in the world, actually. Yeah. So you can take that multi-billion-dollar idea of the VC, and then what you do is you funnel it down to a point that you can use it. So I become the VC. So there's lots of small business owners who they need more equipment because they're growing, but they just don't have the credit, or they have the actual, savings to make that acquisition. So I've become that guy in the industry where people come to me, they bring me their packets, I sit down with them, they show me their EBITDAs, I look at their financial statements, and I say, so how much is it going to cost for this new tire machine that you need for your shop? You're like, oh, these are $6,000. How many of those do you need? I need a minimum of 2 to keep up with the demand that I have right now at the shop and everything too. So, okay, so roughly $14,000, $15,000 that you need for that. Let me ask you a question too. Is there anything else that needs to be improved? How about the lifts? Oh, I could actually use another 4 lifts. How much are those? Oh, those are 10 grand. Okay, how many of those can you use? 4 more? Okay, 40,000. So if I go out and give you $54,000, you would improve not only your ability to service your customers better, but it also would increase your cash flow 3x. Am I right or am I right? And they're like, no, you're absolutely correct. I'm in. But here's the thing. In order for me to do this, I'm going to need to basically get something in return. I'm not asking for a whole lot, okay?
Yeah.
But what are you willing to give up of your company in order for you to have what you need in order to provide a very comfortable environment for not only you, your employees, but also most importantly for your family? What are you willing to sacrifice in order to make that dream a reality? And I've never once asked for percentage. They've given me percentage.
Wow.
On every deal. And it's very interesting what I've actually given back some of the percentage because they're like 40%. I'm like, that's too much. It's not going to be enough for you to be comfortable. How about this? I'll give you the money, but I'll do it for 25%.
Wow.
And that's just being honest. That's just being basically doing right by them and hopefully giving them the ability to breathe a little bit on that side there. You don't want anybody to struggle.
Yeah.
But that's something that you can do big time without a lot of cash or even an idea, but you can invest in something like that and give somebody the ability to grow their business. But guess what? They're doing all the hard work. They've got the dream. They have the vision. They're manifesting their talent, and they're doing what their purpose is that they believe in life that they're doing right now. And it's creating what I would call a dividend for you.
Yeah.
And all you're doing is supporting them, counseling them.
And you're helping their dream become a reality, enhance the call that they have and the dream that they had in the business.
That's all I'm doing, dude. I'm just putting a new suit on you. I mean, you walk into here with jeans and a t-shirt, right? All I do is put a tux on you.
Yeah.
You're still the same guy. You still got the same mind. You still have the same ideas, the same thought process, the same morals, the same intellectual capacity. Yeah. I didn't do anything to the inner.
And you know what's crazy? Tying it all together, you're becoming an asset.
Precisely.
Not a liability.
Precisely.
And when you're an asset to other people, it's amazing because when you give without expectation of return, it creates a guaranteed return every single time.
And what happens when the cash flow goes up? What happens when there's more customers coming in? He ends up hiring more what?
Employees.
And we're blessing the lives of all those families now and helping them have insurance, and we're helping them have basically some really good cash flow for their family, hopefully to put into a BotJock ATA or something like that, take a portion of it. I've encouraged so many business owners to rethink their retirement plans. That's one of the biggest pushes that we've made in 2023 is I'm meeting with a lot of business owners. I'm saying, guys, what are you paying Fidelity? What are you paying Prime America right now for your retirement plans? They're like, dude, we're spending out, $200,000-$300,000, per quarter to help our people out. I'm like, what if you didn't have to do that at all? Yeah. What if you could just basically take $1,000 that they would dedicate out of their salary, okay, to put into one of these things, and you just let that freaking thing roll, and I'm not charging you anything other than
the fees, just the fee to use the tech.
That's all it is. It's a one-time fee for the tech, and not a one-time fee, but it's a subscription fee for the tech. But I'm not charging you all the management fees and everything else that comes along. Think about it. Your 401k or your IRA, the typical management fees there run in the 30 to 40% range. It's money going back to the guy. You never talk to these people. They don't even make you money. You still pay them.
100%.
The ATA is there, and you get this. You don't have to get penalized for pulling your money out or making a loan with yourself in a 401k. You could pay yourself every dang Saturday if you wanted to.
Financial institutions don't want people to know this.
No.
These companies don't want people to know they can have the freedom to go create wealth. They want to make you think you have to be some super genius to go do this, and you should just entrust it with them because they're charging massive fees and they're running billion-dollar companies.
Hence the massive target on my back.
Yeah. What you're doing, and I think, guys, and the reason I'm passionate about having, for one, you're a good friend. I believe in you. I love what you're doing. This conversation, I've been the most silent in out of any interview because you're dropping gold and I'm picking it up. But I'll also say that more people need to hear what you're sharing. And mainstream will try to stunt that. So guys, help me get George out to the world. Help me get CK out to the world. Help me get BotJock out to the world so more people can get impacted, so your family can get impacted, so your families can get impacted, because I'm on a mission to help my brothers and sisters, God's people. And, we got big institutions that are trying to take that away. And I grew up in such a poor family where the poverty mindset, the belief systems, the tools that we had didn't allow. The breaking out of that's so rare.
It's hard.
Breaking out of that. And I see mindset, you talked a lot about mindset and equipping people and strategy, but you also built a tool. Everybody needs a tool. Imagine before we had hammers, how hard it was to build, or drills or any of that.
I think also too, what we've done is taken extremely complicated or a very steep learning curve, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And I flattened it. I literally flattened the whole freaking learning curve because you don't need to know how to trade. You just know how to set the dang thing. If you can watch a video and follow the instructions, the setup instruction in videos are so clean and clear and precise that a 5-year-old could do it. That's how we designed it. Yeah. So, we have thousands of subscribers that do this, and some of them are 75, 80 years old. Some of these people that are trying to put a little bit of their social security check in this thing to make it work for them, do it. It's a little bit here and a little bit there adds up.
Over time, yeah.
Exactly.
Compound effect.
Compound interest is amazing, guys. It's the most amazing. It's like the eighth wonder of the world, And I try to teach people a lot, especially youth who, I hate to say this, in schools, we're failing our youth because Financial literacy is not being taught at all. It's funny that we've relied on churches to do this. I mean, Dave Ramsey has been really just much about that. He's built a very large following off of just teaching financial literacy because nobody else is freaking doing it.
I know.
You know, and I respect
and he's
that.
so, and I respect, but he's so defensive. I love offense. And it's like, who's equipping us with offense?
There's not really anybody out there. I kind of don't, again, the biggest thing is I feel like if you can take control of that yourself, like not having to be coerced to do that and being able to make that decision while you are not up against, your back is not up against the wall. Yeah. To me, that's the most important thing because preparation is power. Also too, if you are prepared, you shall not what? If you are prepared, you shall not, what does it say in the scriptures?
Put me on spot. I'm not sure. I don't want to say it wrong. Fear. Cut that out.
Yeah. So that's literally what it is. If you are prepared, you shall not fear.
Yeah.
So if you are in a situation, again, being laid off, again, an accident, you know, where your insurance may not cover all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Child gets sick and you're like, oh my gosh, this procedure is going to be so much money. You know, that type of stuff right there. If you're prepared, all that stuff just goes away. You don't worry about that.
Yeah. Imagine what life would look like if people didn't have the fear of lack and not having enough.
That's why I always try my best, and I've tried to instill this into my own children, my own daughters and everything too, that prosperity is basically, it just all starts with that one thought.
Yeah.
You know, scarcity mindset will never get you very far. Why? Because you play the freaking victim in every scarcity situation.
Yeah.
This is happening to me because of. I am broke or poor because of. You start to point fingers when really all you should be doing is pointing it right back at yourself because you have the capacity to make a decision to change the actual trajectory of your whole and freaking entire financial life.
Yeah. But so many people, why do you think so many people aren't doing that? I'm just curious though.
Fear. False events appearing real. They don't have a path. Nobody's showed them how to do it. Yeah. So they feel like they're just like, crap, I don't know anything about this. I'm inadequate and I don't feel prepared to make that leap.
So I just won't do it.
So out of fear, they stay put.
Yeah. And so many people profit off them staying put. Let's be real.
Let's be real about that too. The adversary never wants us to progress. His whole plan is digression.
Yeah.
He wants you going backwards, not forwards, because he knows if he can put the chains, you know, on you, the flaxen cord, I call it, because flaxen, if you ever seen a flaxen cord, individually that strand just snaps like this. But if you wind that stuff with 1,000 of them or 2,000 of them, it's as strong as steel. You cannot break a flaxen cord. That's how the adversary gets us. He gets us one thought at a time.
Yeah.
You got to think about it, man. That's why I started with that. Sow a thought, reap an act. Sow an act, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap an eternal destiny. What does addictions, like the money that we spend our stuff, like for instance, a lot of people are broke, but if I sat down with you and did a budget, you've got $4,000 a quarter going to Starbucks.
Yeah.
You have $250 a month, call it, going to your cell phone. You call that, you do that, the math of it, it's $2,600 basically the whole year for your cell phone. And those are necessities in your life. Are they?
Yeah.
Needs, my friends, wants. Needs, wants. Once you become super clear with that division, then you know exactly where your priorities are. And then it takes discipline. I'm going to say that again. It takes discipline and courage for you to be able to go out there and make that decision for yourself.
Yeah.
Fact.
That's so good. Well, as we wrap up here, incredible show, so much value. Definitely going to have to bring you back on. Is there anything on your heart right now that you just want to share that we haven't hit on during the show? Anything that maybe God's put on your heart that you want to leave for the audience?
Know your worth. Know your worth. I think that's the most important thing. If you understand exactly who you are and what you're destined to be, to become, what you were designed to become, there's nothing that will hold you back to accomplish that in your life. And the minute that you start thinking that you're not worthy of that blessing, and I'm going to point, you are literally shooting your own self in the foot. That's not God talking to you. It's the other guy. So beware. There's always two voices, guys. You got good and you got bad. But always, always err on the side of positivity and good. That's important. Because the minute you start letting those dark thoughts come in and you hear that other voice that discourages you, pulls you down, makes you feel less than, makes you want to basically throw in the towel and quit. That's what the devil does. He quit. Yeah. You call that, you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be that girl. Go out there and realize your potential.
Come on. So good.
Make you. Make you the way the Lord designs you to be. Go for it.
Yeah, and Satan wants to steal, kill, and destroy us.
Always.
And God made us perfect just the way you are, and there's a constant spiritual warfare going on to keep you from being the thing you were created to.
And last but not least, stop comparing yourself to freaking others, guys. The race is against you and only you. Okay?
Amen.
So
Amen.
That's it, bud.
What's next for you?
Everyone says, when are you going to retire, CK? When are you going to retire? I don't think I'll ever retire. I mean, I was blessed with a mind that continues to function at a high level, and I want to be able to do all that I can to build the dreams of others and everything too. Eventually, Botjock's going to be purchased.
Yeah.
I mean, BlackRock's probably going to buy us.
Right.
For a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay. $250 billion, whatever it's going to be. It's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's when. Our technology is that good. But what will I do with that? I'm going to continue to build. I mean, and the thing is this though too, I want to be able to leave a legacy, hopefully, of knowing that whatever dreams you want to manifest and what you want to create, there will always be that fund, my fund, whatever that's going to be that I leave to the world, that you can go ahead and tap into that. You will pay a modest interest to that particular fund, but we will fuel your dream.
Yeah.
That's what I want to leave, is the ability to go out there and for you to become a flipping asset.
Come on. So powerful, man. And where can people find you and connect with you?
You can go to botjok.com. All of our bios are on there. You can reach us directly through that particular thing there. If you go to TikTok, it's going to be CK_botjock_ATA_trader. That's us on there. I'm pretty large following on that side. And also on Instagram, it's the same exact thing.
Okay.
It'll be basically botjock_ATA_trader on that side there.
Guys, go connect with him. As you can see, I would go as far as to say George is a genius. And I know you're humble, but I would say, man, you definitely have an anointing on your life. And I just felt, as we wrap up here, the last thing I want to say is God has a calling on your life. And I really just saw a vision of you equipping and empowering millions of people to be able to build wealth, to be able to have finances, to not have lack, to have prosperity, so they can fully operate in what God's called them to. So I'm just stepping into agreement. The word of God tells us when two or more are gathered in agreement, and I'm coming in an intercession and just agreement with you for favor around Botjock, favor around you, around your life, everything that you're doing. I see you being a Elon Musk whose heart's truly submitted to God and who goes out and does, I know differences there, but I see you $4 billion, let's say, that you sell this, let's say to BlackRock or whatever happens with that. I see you going and multiplying that and building the kingdom and empowering people.
Yeah. I mean, I hope to be, again, someone that's remembered as contributing to something beautiful.
Yeah. So good, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in. Go follow CK, aka George Ama. Such an honor. And guys, go make today great.